Well, we have an amazing memo that was released today. It was covered on Infowars.com. It was written by Greg Palast. And the title of it is The Confidential Memo at the Heart of the Global Financial Crisis. And what he points out is that he got this memo sent to him from somebody. He says, when a little birdie dropped in the end game memo, is what he calls it, through my window, its content was so explosive, so sick, and just plain evil he couldn't believe it, but he actually did go through and verify it. And this is what's interesting about it. The players, the Treasury official playing the banker's secret endgame was Larry Summers. And of course, Larry Summers is Obama's choice to become chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve. And if the memo is authentic, he says, then Summers shouldn't be going to the Fed. He should be going to the prison. But he verified it as being authentic. And the interesting thing about this memo is that it is from Timothy Geithner, who was a leading player at the Federal Reserve in New York during the TARP fiasco and is now Treasury Secretary under Obama. And this is what the memo said. He said, as we enter the end game of the World Trade Organization financial services negotiation, I would believe it would be a good idea for you to touch base with CEOs. He sent this to Larry Summers, and he points out here that if Larry Summers had called him, that would have triggered, under U.S. law, a public law. So what he does is he puts the phone numbers of the people, these few bankers that he wants to get involved in there. Of course, one of them is the criminal John Corzine. And the whole point of this was the end game essentially was to deregulate the banks with Glass-Steagall and to allow them to create these financial derivative markets, which, as he points out, J.P. Morgan would soon after this memo have an $88 trillion pseudo security on their books because, of course, those derivatives are not worth that much money. They can claim that they're worth that much money, and then they go around to different countries and tell them that they need to be bailed out or else. And then once the countries do that, then they declare those countries financially insolvent, lower their credit ratings, and then take over their countries, as we've seen time and again. In Italy and in Greece, we see Goldman Sachs people being put in positions of power and taking out democratically elected leaders. On our final piece of news today, we have an update on the NSA spying scandal that involved all the big internet companies. The Guardian reports that the NSA paid millions to cover PRISM compliance costs for tech companies. The NSA paid millions of dollars to cover the costs of major internet companies involved in the PRISM surveillance program after a court ruled that some of the agency's activities were unconstitutional. An NSA newsletter entry marked Top Secret, dated December 2012, discloses the huge cost that this entailed, and it said last year's problems resulted in multiple extensions to certification's expiration dates, which cost millions of dollars for PRISM providers to implement each successive extension. These are costs covered by something called a special source operation. And the disclosure that taxpayers' money was used to cover the company's compliance costs raises new questions over the relationship between Silicon Valley and the NSA. Since the existence of the program was first revealed by The Guardian and The Washington Post on June 6th, these internet companies have repeatedly denied all knowledge of it and insisted that they only handed over user data in response to specific legal requests from the authorities. Well, notice a few things about this. First of all, this was a ruling by the secret FISA court. Now, this is a court that has doesn't have two different sides arguing the case. There's no publication of their decisions, and yet they maintain that these decisions alter not only our law, but alter the Constitution, that they're setting precedents, but nobody sees these decisions. So, of course, nobody knew about what was going on. And we're told that there's oversight about what the NSA is doing. Well, clearly you can't oversee something that you don't know anything about. But it's even worse than that. Obama is telling us, blatantly lying to us, saying that there's not even any question about what's going on with the NSA.
At some point, does the technology outpace the laws that are in place and the protections that are in place? And do some of these systems end up being like a loaded gun out there that somebody at some future point could abuse? Because there are no allegations, and I am very confident, knowing the NSA and how they operate, that purposely somebody's out there trying to abuse this program or listen in on people's email.
You're confident in that?
I am confident in that.
Did you hear that? Obama said there's not even an allegation. There's been plenty of allegations. There's been allegations that the tech companies were in on this, and that's what this proves as well. It proves that these internet companies were involved from the beginning in this program. And for those of you who don't think this is a big issue, so maybe some Republicans who love the security state, notice that this is millions of dollars that are being spent on this. Maybe that'll get your attention. Well, that brings us to today's quote, and that is from Tom Brokaw. He says, "A common lament of the World War II generation is the absence of personal responsibility." Well, if you're not a Prison Planet supporter, please consider doing that. You can share that with 10 people. It's a great way to wake people up. We're fighting in this information war. We're trying to keep real wars from happening. We're trying to wake people up to the false flags, the false information that you see out there. You may not learn who the next Batman actor is going to be, but you're going to get information that you can use, information that will help each other. And you can share that with up to 10 people at a time with just one subscription. Now, coming up right after the break, we've got Gigi Arnetta talking to Syrian Girl, getting another perspective on what's going on in Syria that you won't hear in the mainstream media.
Now you can watch Alex Jones live at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
You can also browse the network, the InfoWars Nightly News,
and over 60 movies and documentaries all together in one place.
You can watch the Alex Jones radio show live as it happens.
So check it out, Infowars.com/show.